Kidding? Just one shot?
They're not all zombies, Doug. How do you fight this thing?
Maybe we could drown it in A1 sauce.
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back.
It's a dance song to get down with. About 6 feet under. Get there.
Ooh, I love this song.
And now we come to the thrilling final episode of our radio drama.
Hello, and welcome back to the Rotten Reviews podcast. Welcome to episode 159. Can you guys believe that? We're actually at 159 episodes of this silly podcast that I do each and every week by myself, my lonesome self. But yet you guys still come back each and every week, which is amazing. I appreciate that so much. It does mean a lot to me. And I thank you guys all for coming back. You know, it's kind of getting late at night, and I'm just popping this episode up and getting ready to actually watch the movie at hand. So it's going to be a late night tonight probably, as I got some artwork. I'm trying to get a Pee Wee Herman tribute piece done for a customer, and hopefully that will be done tonight or early tomorrow, or early Sunday tomorrow. The last episode of the podcast, Return of the Living Dead, just dropped earlier this morning, I think at like 5 o'clock this morning, and it's been a busy day. It's been a busy weekend. You know, I look forward to my weekends because I'm like, I get to relax. I'm not really relaxing because I'm always working on something, but at least it's a fun work, I guess. You know, it's art and other stuff, you know, doing stuff with my kid, even though she drives me bonkers some days, but that's fine. That's, you know, the joys of parenthood, right? It's only going to get better from here, right? It's going to get better though, right? As they get older, right guys? They get better as they get older, right? Please tell me they get better. I'm kidding. She's fine. She actually is a really good kid, and to be honest with you, I can tell her that I'm recording and she'll just, you know, go off in her room, you know, do some artwork, color, watch a video, whatever, and you know, she's fairly good for that most days. So something I want to mention beforehand, in case you guys don't check out my social media stuff and whatnot, I do drawings for her each and every single day so that she goes to school, camp, whatever, and we're going to be starting Halloween pieces next month. So it's going to be like 3 series that I'm actually dropping each every single day. That's crazy. I'm just taking the concept and putting that actually into my brain now. I'm going to have to do the Treehouse of Horror daily posting, the sketch note or post-it note daily posting, and then there's also going to be Halloween inspired pieces for her lunch as well. Sarah says she wants a bunch of Scooby-Doo pieces, so that's kind of cool. I'm going to do a bunch of different villains for that. So I'm going to be posting those ones as well. I don't post a lot of the ones that I do for her because I just figure people aren't going to really want to see them. Just a bunch of various cartoon characters and whatnot. If you guys do want to see more of those, let me know and I will start posting them more often. But this is all just going on about my social media stuff. So make sure to check out @TyphonSdesign pretty much on any platform at all. You know, your Twitter, X, if you want to call it X, whatever. It's still Twitter at the end of the line. But Instagram, the Facebook page. You can add me on Facebook if you want. You can find me. It's easy to find me. But the main thing is the YouTube channel. If you want to check it out there, I'll be posting them as shorts, maybe even doing some shorts of me actually doing them and like drawing them and doing them as like a speed time-lapse video. I might do some actually longer videos. I've been doing some live streams actually. It's been a few days or maybe like a week since I actually did a live stream on YouTube, but I was doing live streams on YouTube where I was actually working on the drawings for the week for her. So if you guys want to see more of those, let me know down below, and I'll start doing those more often as well. And yeah, we just got a bunch of content coming out on the YouTube channel. Make sure to check out the links all down below, because I think there might be some content there that you guys enjoy. I've been actually getting a lot more views on YouTube. I just dropped an old episode of the podcast a couple days ago. It was I forget which one it was actually, to be honest with you. I mean, my dad brain is the absolute worst, 100%. But yeah, I dropped the old episode 144. It's not even that freaking old, to be honest with you. The Wrong Turn remake review, and you guys just apparently enjoyed to listen to it on YouTube for whatever reason. This is an extra 130 views. I know that's not a lot for a lot of people, but for a small account like myself, that means a lot, and it just keeps going up each and every single day. So that's awesome. Like 24 hours, it was over 100 views, which I think was crazy. But I appreciate that. Nonetheless, we'll keep growing. We keep getting new subscribers, so definitely go check that out. The weekly gaming videos drop every Wednesday, and we're working on some new content that I'm not going to mention right at this point in time because I want to get a few things set up and like a little bit of a catalog built up before I, start burning myself, because I only actively work on like 4 to 5 hours of sleep as it is. So let's try not to go below that, because I don't feel like, burning myself alive on the torch from both ends. You know what it is. But I know for this one I've been on a little bit of a tangent and just talking all over the place. So we're gonna jump right into our movie, which is free to watch on Tubi still, but you can also find it for free on YouTube. So I'm actually pulled it up on YouTube, and actually it's been up there for 6 years and it's got 2.2 million views, which is crazy. Hopefully people like. I should actually read the comments and see if anyone's dropped any comments on it. I also didn't realize this is part 1 of like a 3 film series. They're all TV movies, and they got really creative writing, because the first one is Sometimes They Come Back, second one is Sometimes They Come Back Again, and the third one is Sometimes They Come Back for More. That's very creative. Good job, Stephen King. We'll see if you didn't know, one of the writers for this, or the main writer, is Stephen King. I'm not going to go into his history. You got Silver Bullet, you got Cujo, Christine, a bunch of other movies. Maximum Overdrive being the main thing, because that's my favorite one. You also have Lance Connor is a writer as well. I know I jumped to the director, but I'll get back to him. He's a writer for the 2001 Planet of the Apes. He also did Superman: The Quest for Peace. He's done 3 episodes of Boardwalk Empire and Star Trek. Is that 4? I think. No, 6. VI. I think that's 6. Yeah, 6. The Undiscovered Country. I'm not a Star Trek fan. I want to eventually watch them, just for the sake of saying I've watched them in my catalog, but I will get to that someday. Not anytime soon, but someday. Another writer on it is Mark Rosnow. He also was the writer for the 2001 Planet of the Apes, The Jewel of the Nile from 1985, and he did 2 episodes of the 2016 Roots TV series, which I didn't even know they had a 2016 TV series. And then the director is Tom McLaughlin. You might know him from Friday the 13th, Jason Lives, Date with an Angel from 1987, The Unsaid from 2001, and Sometimes They Come Back from 1991. Apparently, he didn't do a lot of other stuff. Nothing that's too amazing. He also, he did something called The Amazing Stories from 1986 and 1987, where he did 2 episodes, but that's nothing really to talk about. He also was the writer for the Friday the 13th, the series, where he did 3 episodes. So he likes Jason, so that's kind of cool. I'm a fan of Jason. Hacking and slashing. This is, like I said, a made-for-TV movie. I couldn't find anywhere that says the budget or anything like that, because it's a TV movie. I guess there's not much information on it. Maybe I'm just too stupid and don't know where to look. So if you know a good spot where to look for that kind of stuff for TV-made movies, let me know. I would love to know where to look. It's got 5.7 out of 10 on IMDb, and the quick synopsis is a man and his family return to his hometown, where he is harassed by teenagers who died when he was a kid. It's a drama, horror, thriller. We got a classic tagline for this. With The Shining and Misery, Stephen King scared you to death. Now he's going to scare you back to life. Trivia. Jim Norman says 27 years ago they killed Wayne. Pennywise also comes back every 27 years in the novel It by Stephen King. And apparently there's a goof. When they return to the Greasers, they're able to drive their car without the keys, which Jim took from the crash scene in 1963. So why do they need them to drive out of the tunnel during the final? Spoilers! Dog barking outside. Great for my podcast. That's fine though. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Totally fine. And as always, I say, before I start talking about this, if you don't want to be spoiled, feel free to pause this podcast now and go watch the movie at hand, or just listen to me talk about it, because I'm going to be talking about it from start to finish and, hitting all the points in between. So it's pretty much like listen to me talk about the movie. Like you're kind of watching like Mystery Science Theater, but it's not nearly as funny or entertaining. But that's besides the point, right? Right? You guys still like it, right? Please come back. Please don't leave me. But yeah, we're going to get right into the movie at hand right now. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode.
Presents Saturday Night at the Movies, the television series which each week brings you the finest in recent motion pictures. Tonight,
from Stephen King, the modern master of terror, creator of Pet Sematary and Misery, comes an all-new excursion to the place where horror comes alive. This used to be a nice little town, but for Jim Norman, it holds a terrifying secret. Now, 27 years later, he's come back with his family. But they won't be alone.
Driving in person, Mr. Norman.
All he wants is a chance for a new beginning.
I don't want to dream. You're dead.
Now, The things that haunt him are about to begin. All over again.
Can Jimmy come out and play?
Starting again, isn't it?
Jimmy, what's wrong?
If someone seems like they're in trouble, they probably are. Why are they after you?
They killed Billy, they killed Kate, and now they want me. Seems they're here to finish up some old business, and we're part of the plan. Something's left unsettled. Sometimes they come back. Please help me!
Tim Matheson, Brooke Adams, Robert Russler, and William Sanderson. Sometimes they come back.
I've been waiting for you, son.
Alright, we got a movie starting out with that classic MGM Lion Roar logo intro. We got some good memories of that. Got good memories of a lot of logos, actually, to be honest with you. Pretty much say that on almost every movie that happened. Then the intro starts coming in, and then we see the music starting to pick up a little bit, and then it's at Stephen King's Sometimes They Come Back. Let me know also, guys, if you want me to talk about the cast at all. I sometimes talk about the cast when I know them from other movies. I probably remember some of these guys from other movies. Maybe not, I don't know. Looking at it off the top of my head, I don't really remember too many or too much of them, but let me know if you want me to deep dive a little bit more into who's playing in the movie and what roles they've done beforehand. And I'll do it. I'll definitely do it. That doesn't bother me at all. And the movie pretty much starts up right after the intro credits as we see the fast pace of just train tracks moving. We can definitely tell there's a train going down the tracks, but we can't actually see the train at all. And then there's a narration, which I'm assuming is by Tim Matheson, who's playing Jim Norman, but not 100% sure at this point in time because it's been a while since I watched this movie. We hear that the guy's a teacher and he's come back to his town because he needed to take the job because it's the only job that he could find. And we see it's Jim, his family in this like V&W bus as they're moving in. Doesn't look like they have much stuff unless they got a moving van coming with them at some point in time. And then in the narration, we find out his parents fled the town from fear when he was 9, and his brother was also murdered in this town. And that's why he's very remorseful about moving back, but he's got to take the job to pay the bills and to keep his family alive, not alive, but keep them fed and whatnot. Get to the spot where they're gonna call home now, and as soon as the kid gets out, he's like, where's all the sidewalks? Mom's like, that's the least of your worries. And then Jim hears a train off in the distance and kind of catches his attention. He's like, oh, okay. We can definitely tell there's some issues with him and trains, so I'm assuming that's how his brother died. Well, we'll get into it a little bit more later on, of course. We see Jim, they're moving in, they're getting everything set up, and the first thing that Jim wants to put up is the Chicago Cubs poster in his son's room, where it looks like the mattress is just sitting on the floor, but it's fine, they just moved in, it's fine, it's no big deal. Also, just a little thing, like in this kid's room, the light, you never see this anymore, but it's just like a pole rope that pulls down to turn the light off, because Jim's like, hey, buddy, you want the light on or off? And the kid's like, off. It's like, are you sure? You positive, right? And the kid wants the light off, so the kid's got the light off. And then we just cut to Jim and his wife just getting busy in the bed, to break in the house, of course. That's their ceremony to break in the house. And then we cut to the class, and one of the jock guys is like, yeah, I heard this new teacher threw a kid out a window in Chicago. And it's just a bunch of the kids saying different rumors, or teenagers I should say, saying a bunch of different rumors about what the teacher is or who they think the teacher might be. And of course it's Jim. Jim comes in and he's like, so you're my 5th class, thank God you're seniors, hopefully you guys will be a little bit nice to me, and guys will stay awake. Then one of the jockey guys gets up, he's like, I'm the chipster, so there's something you gotta know about this class there, Jim. It's like, so this isn't really a real class, this is a jock class, because pretty much all of us guys in here are on the football team, and the girls are just kind of like, ooh and ah and all over us. So this isn't real class. You can't really fail us at all, just so you know. Chipster said, yeah, so you pass us. We'll get a championship. You'll be a happy school, happy squad, happy life, right? And the whole class starts yelling, chip, 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 chipster. And Jim grabs the fucking long ass ruler. I forget what the meter stick, and literally snaps it in half. He's like, sorry about that, guys. Did me to lose my cool, but guess you shut up. And he's like, saying sorry to class and how he's not going to break any more sticks. And this is one like looking guy who's definitely not a jock by any means. Looks a little, out of it. He's like, I kind of liked it. So you can break another stick if you want to. We later on see Jim being called into the office to talk to, I think, the principal. I think the jocks just got done talking to him. But then we also saw the kid who's like said that he likes the stick being broken, being kind of like nudged into in the hallway, kind of like he's like an outcast essentially. And then we cut to Jim outside what I assume is his old parents' house that's abandoned and boarded up. He's kind of just standing out there looking on, and he can see like the curtain moving a bit, and then he hears like his little brother laughing, and then he has a flashback moment of him and his brother playing on the porch. Or it might be his older brother. I'm not sure which brother is which, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's actually his older brother. I believe Wayne is the one who dies. I'm pretty sure I read that in the description anyways. But then he has like the flashback of Wayne being bullied on the train tracks and his brother yelling at him to run, and then he's like, okay, I gotta get out of this area. And then he gets home and they start taking Polaroid pictures of him. Well, not Polaroids, it's like the old film cameras. He's like, alright guys, come on, sit down. Just got home, hard day. And the kid's all excited because he's like, hey, we went out shopping and got an antique. And he hands his dad this antique, and it's an antique steam engine train. He's like, oh, that's cool, that's great. And then Sally's talking about how she found this old abandoned storefront, and how she wants to open up and do more than just sell flowers. And all he is hearing is the sound of a train as he's looking at this train. And Sally's like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, fine. Just a long day at work, that's all. And then Jim's like, so yeah, I had a talk with the principal. And he just said how he didn't want a Chicago incident here. And she's like, well, I thought you had that all sorted out. It's like, apparently the Chicago incident is a real thing. And maybe he did really throw a kid out the window. I don't know. That's teaching for you, I guess. You don't want to fucking pay attention. It's your own fault. Like, I mean, throwing a kid out a window might be a little bit of a stretch. Like, unless it's on, like, the ground floor, it's not that big deal. But, like, if you're on the second, third floor, probably a little bit dangerous. Dangerous nonetheless, but still. And then we see it's nighttime and they're trying to sleep, and Jim's having a nightmare because he's having a nightmare of him and his brother in the train tunnel as these greasers are coming up at them. And the whole time the greasers are like looking at them, there's like a lion roaring. I'm not sure the reason behind that, but they thought it was good, so whatever, it worked. And then Jim's running away in the dream crying, and then he actually gets woken up and can still hear crying. So he tries to wake up Sally, but she's still fast asleep, so he gets up to go check to see what's going on. And we think it's his son crying. He goes into the son's room, but the son's still fast asleep. Then he looks over on the nightstand, sees the steam engine train sitting there, and then we hear the steam engine train sound in the background. He's like, okay, I'm losing my fucking shit living in this house. And then as he's standing there, it changes to daylight, even though it's middle of night. He's looking at the wall, and it's just a bunch of pictures of his old family, and the family house that they used to live in, apparently. And then we see an old flat wooden TV on the ground, like not flat screen, of course, but it's one of those old TVs with the wooden frame around, and it's playing a black and white movie on it, or a TV show. I'm not really too sure what it is, to be honest with you. But now Jim is totally confused as to what's going on. He doesn't know where he is or what's happening. And he's walking around, and he actually sees it's his dad and his mom in the kitchen, laughing, having a fun time. Then he hears some crying again. He goes outside and sees on the porch is a younger version of himself sitting on the porch crying. And then he goes to check, and he sees that it's himself, and he's kind of looking at it all confused. And then Wayne opens the door and says, Jimmy, and they both look at Wayne. And he's like, what are you crying about? What's the big issue? Then old version of Jim is watching as young version of Jim and Wayne start walking down the sidewalk out of the house area. And the brother's like, yeah, me and you, Jimmy, we're always going to hang out together. We're always going to be stuck together because we're brothers. It's like, oh, yeah, about that. And then we see young version of Jim and Wayne as they're running to the train tracks, and they run up to the train, up on top of the train tracks because it's on a hill area, and they're looking down the tunnel, and Jim's like, so we're gonna go through the tunnel? And Wayne's like, yeah, it's faster, it's just a shortcut, it's no big deal. Then we see young version of Jim and Wayne heading down the train tracks, and then we see the old version of Jim standing off in the distance as he's yelling at them not to do it and yelling for them not to go down the train tunnel. And then next thing we know, we see this old Chrysler, I think 50, coming down the road at them, or coming down the train tracks at them, and they stop and say, hey guys, you sissies are blocking the road, how about you move out of the way? Then the greasers pull out in front of them and actually block the train tracks and park the car across the train tracks. And they all get out of the car to confront Wayne and Jim. Then the main greaser, which I think is Richard Lawson, he's like, hey, you kid, you want to get through the tunnel? You're going to have to pay. That's when Wayne's like, we'll go back. And then one of the other greasers makes fun of him. He's like, nah, you're not going back. You're going to pay. You know, you got some new sneakers on here. Let's see if you can fly with them on. Then we see the greasers picking on Wayne. They throw the books around, and then they take Wayne's shoes off and throw them up in the air, and they magically get stuck on a pipe that's hanging out in the train tunnel. And then Jim's like, hey, you guys leave my brother alone. That's when then Wayne punches the main greaser, and then he pulls out a switchblade. He's like, nobody punches me. Nobody punches. That's when Wayne's yelling at Jimmy to run. And then I guess Wayne's trying to get like out, or maybe when the greasers pushes him. I can't really tell what actually happens there, but he falls into the switchblade essentially. And the guy's just standing there, and he realizes his switchblade is inside Wayne's stomach almost. I think stomach, chest area, stomach. And he's just looking around like, he deserved it. I didn't do it. And then everyone else is looking around like, oh shit, you actually stabbed the guy. Oh fuck, he's a kid. What the fuck are we gonna do now, dude? You actually stabbed a kid. He's like, well, what about him? He's gonna tell somebody. We should deal with him. And then next thing you know, the train's coming down the track at them, and they're all rushing to get into the car. Jim goes to grab his brother to, try and get him off the tracks. And that's when Wayne's just like, go get help, go get dad. And the greasers are all like, where's the keys? I don't know where the keys are. So they're struggling to get out of the car at the same time. They're going through the window on the door. And then next thing you know, the train hits the car. Everything goes up in flames. And Jim's still in the train tunnel. And he's off on the side, like tucked in the fetal position. And then next thing we know, we see him running home crying. And then he runs past the cop car. And the cop gets out. And he's like, wait, what's wrong, Jimmy? But Jimmy just ignores him and runs straight home and then just sits on the porch. And now we cut to old version of Jim, who's sitting on his own porch, having a mental breakdown. And then Sally comes out being like, Jim, what's the matter, honey? What's up? And Sally comes out. She's like, I thought I heard a child crying. And Jim's like, yeah, that was me. I could use a coffee. Be in a minute for a coffee. We see Jim leaving the school. He's got a box full of school supplies or something. I'm not sure what's going on. Anyways, he's putting this stuff in this little BMW bus. So when we then see from the point of view of someone inside this red Firebird as it's flooring right towards Jim, it looks like it's going to pretty much T-bone him right into his van. And it's, swerves right beside him. He gets out, and it's a chipster who's pissed off because he's failing. That's when Jim's like, you know what? I played football too when I was in school. I also did the work. So if you don't want to fail and you want to still be on the team, just do the goddamn work. Then we see Jim get into his van, and he's trying to turn it on, but the fucking thing won't start. So then the chipster's just standing there staring at him through the driver window, and then he punches the window once. It doesn't break or anything. And he's like, you're dead, man. Yeah, you're dead. Then out of nowhere, the guy who got bullied in the hallway, who said that he liked Jim breaking the stick, pops up. He's like, hey, so what were you and Chip talking about? And he's like, nothing. And then we find out that the guy's, he looks a little distraught. He looks a little sad. So Jim gets out of the van to talk to him. He's like, you said about how things, happen for a reason and keep repeating yourself. Can we change things? Can we change the outcome of things? And then we find out he was listening to Dust in the Wind. He's like, I just don't want to become, a piece of dust in someone's eye. That's all. And I believe this character's name is North, but I could be wrong on that one. It looks like North. And he gets back on his bicycle and rides away. So I was wrong. We find out he drops his wallet on the ground, and Jim picks it up, and his name is Billy Stearns. My bad. So yeah, they look like the same in the IDM picture. Just the North character looks a little different. I'm assuming he's the dead version, or one of the dead greaser guys at least. And so we see Billy riding his bike down the kind of looks like a main road, not really. But then he drives by this black greaser car, which is the same car from the train tunnel, and then the car comes speeding after him. The whole time it's speeding after him. We also see Jim speeding to try and give Billy back his wallet, and he's honking the horn because he sees this greaser car behind Billy, pretty much swerving up beside him, swerving around him, pretty much trying to cause him to crash or kill himself, essentially. Then we see Billy riding his bike past this guy and his family who's on the side road because they're having vehicle issues. But when he rides past the family on the side of the road, there's no black car behind them. all they see is Billy on his bike, and they see Jim coming on his VW bus. And then next thing we know, the black car crashes and causes Billy to go off the bridge, and he's dead because he doesn't land in water. He lands on, stone. And there's like a couple trees coming up and whatnot. And there's also two guys that are fishing off of this bridge, but I don't know where the fucking water is because there's no water where Billy lands, even though he like jumps off at the beginning of the bridge, essentially, so he would be on an angle to hit the water. But it's besides the point. They don't see the black car go by either. And then next thing you know, Jim stops, looks down, sees that Billy's dead, and then he sees the black car sitting on the bridge and sees it speed away as flames are coming out of exhaust. And then next thing we know, we see he's back in school, and we see the principal come over, and he's like, yeah, so you got a new student in period 7. And his name is Richard Lawson, which I thought was one of the greasers, but apparently not. Anyways, and the principal's like, you got the space, because Billy Stern's no longer living, so he can just take his seat, okay? That's fine. And that's when Jim's like, Billy was murdered. He got rammed off the road by that car. And then the principal's like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Everyone else there didn't see another car, either did your car. So unless your car is the one that rammed off the road, there wasn't a car that rammed him off the road and murdered him. That's when we then see Jim going into his class, trying to get control of everyone, telling everyone to sit down. He pinpoints Chip, and he's like, hey, Chip, you can sit down. He's like, well, is that an order? He's like, well, yeah, you can just do what you're told. It's my classroom. We also see this greaser guy with his back towards Jim and everyone else in the class as they're standing around at the back. There's like a group of like 5 of them. He's like, so is your name Richard Lawson? And the guy just raises his hand with his cigarette in his, like, behind his ear, being the typical greaser. He's like, yeah, that's me. He's like, live and in person, sir. Just came up from Milford or whatever. And then Jim's having flashbacks because this guy looks like the same greaser that killed his brother in the train tunnel. And then Jim's like, hey, so one thing about my class, no cigarettes. So Richard breaks the cigarette. He's like, sorry, sir, I don't want to do anything to upset you. I'm hungry for knowledge. I can't wait to have you teach me some new stuff. That's when then Jim addresses the class. He's like, we are all really sad about Billy Stearns, what happened to him. So if you guys need to talk about anything, now's the time. Let's just, use this time in class to talk about Billy if you want to. That's when Lawson raises his hand. He's like, so, Mr. Norman, why do you keep staring at me? What? He's like, I'm not. He's like, yeah, you are. I can see you're staring at me. Also, something typical with movies. I love that these guys are also so look like they're high school students, but all of them look like they're late 20s, early 30s at this point. Especially the greaser guy, because you can see a 5 o'clock shadow. And of course, when Jim turns his back and tries to do a lesson on the board, Chipster, being the chipster that he is, throws an orange at the pull down screen, and it makes the screen go up. So then Jim's like, I don't know who threw this, but you guys are a fucking coward. Didn't actually swear at them, but how about you throw something at my face? And he starts yelling at them all. And then the principal comes in. He's like, I'll take over your class for a while. And he's like, no, I'm fine. Just go away. Principal like, no, I'll take over your class. Then we see Jim taking a visit to the graveyard where he's, putting some flowers on his brother's grave and, just trying to get a hold of his reality. Then we cut and see the 66th or 67th annual Harvest Day parade because, it's a little redneck town. So, of course, we're going to have a Harvest Day parade. Just like over here, there's a turkey parade and a corn fest and all this other stuff I don't give a shit about. I'm also being serious, like a couple towns over, there was a turkey festival thing that happened today, parade, face paint and all that other fun stuff. And like a couple weeks ago, there was actual corn fest thing. It's weird. Whatever. It is what it is, I guess. Then while they're at this parade, Jim's son's looking up and he sees a pair of red shoes hanging off on this telephone pole or street lamp. That's what it was. And they fall down and he picks them up. He's like, hey, Dad, look, they just fell off this pole over here. And Jim's looking at them and they're the same shoes that Wayne wore when the greasers took them off of him. Jim gives the shoes back to his son, and then he looks up, and he sees Richard Lawson, full greaser mode, just, staring at him, smiling with a cigarette in his mouth. And then we see something that I actually miss as a family, and, having a family now. We see them sitting on the couch, the son's fast asleep, got a big bowl of popcorn, and they're watching King Kong. I just miss the old days of, like, TGIF Fridays, where you're sitting down as a family, having a pizza, watching some Family Matters or Full House, or watching a movie. For me, that's what we used to do when I was younger, or watch, Leprechaun or Friday the 13th, some various horror movies, and it makes you think of how times used to be, because now everything's just streaming and nobody actually sits around as a family anymore. But anyways, back to the movie. The Sally and the son go upstairs, and that's when Jim's like, yeah, I'll be up soon. And then the movie changes, and the picture changes, and it's now a home video of Jim and Wayne as kids. And Jim's totally confused as to what's going on, so he gets closer to the TV, because he doesn't believe what he's actually seeing, and just sees him and his brother having fun, playing baseball. And then next thing you know, Wayne's like telling Jimmy to run, and then the picture frame changes, and then we cut back to King Kong being shot. Then he hears the train whistle off in the distance, distance, so he grabs his coat, goes outside, and next thing we know, we see him walking down an old train bridge in the middle of the night, and then he comes up to the tunnel, which is complete darkness. And then you hear some whistling sounds, and you hear some sounds of his brother talking again, and having various flashbacks, and we see the greasers pop up again, but it's all still just a flashback at this point in time, and then we see the train explode, and it's just him trying to grasp what's all going on in this town. And like, I don't know how close he is to town, like his house, and then next thing we know, we just see him walking down the street as everything's closed, there's nobody else on the sidewalks, and then he bumps into one of his students, and she's like, I was just taking a walk, out here. What are you doing out here? That's when Jim's like, so, hey, Kate, just by the chance, no train, does it still run through here? And she's like, train? What are you talking about? I've lived here all my life, and I've never once seen a train come through. He's like, oh, okay, I was just curious, just wondering. And that's a weird group of scenes, because then we see the greasers again, we see Jimmy and his brother running through. The next thing we know, we see Kate running through the swampy-looking area, and then she falls to the ground, and then we see the greasers standing above her with the switchblade out, and then we see Jim waking up in bed screaming, because I don't know what the hell's going on. And we see it's storming out, and Jim's just looking outside the windows trying to relax and calm down, and then all he hears is the one greaser just laughing over and over again in his head. And then it's the next day, and Jim's, having a cup of coffee. Kid's having some cereal with like 16 scoops of sugar. And Sally pulls him off to the side. He's like, so, Jim, maybe we should, not stay here. Maybe we should move. And Jim's like, what are you talking about? No, we're gonna stay here. Everything's fine. Nothing's happening. Then we cut to Jim's class, and it looks like everyone's taking a test because it's very quiet and everyone's just sitting there. But then we see Richard, who's just, sitting there with his hands behind his head, just relaxing. And then he looks over, and we notice Kate's seat is actually empty, and then Jim's actually realizing it's empty too, and he's having flashbacks to that scene that he saw when he's sleeping. And then next thing you know, we see a search crew in that exact same area, as they have the flashlights out, they have the search dogs out, and they're just searching for anything. And that's when the search team gets ready to call it off, and Jim's out there helping them look around. He's like, wait, is there a barn actually over here? And they're like, yeah, it's a little Tim's place or whatever over there. He's like, I gotta go to the barn. Jim then goes in the barn, starts searching around, doesn't see anything, and then a big gust of air comes in, blows his hair, and then the top door of the barn blows open, and he points his flashlight up, and we actually see Kate is hanging from inside the barn. And then we see like the principal and a doctor, I thought was a guidance counselor of some sort, saying, a group of teachers, I'm assuming, just saying, if you see someone in trouble, speak out to them, ask them if they're doing okay. And that's when Jim's like, are you kidding me? Like, there's 2 dead kids in this town just in like the last week and a half. You guys should be doing more than that. And Jim's like, it wasn't a suicide. She got murdered. Neither one of these murders was a suicide or attempted suicide, whatever. I'm not sure what they're counting Billy at, because it was an accident essentially. But then the doctor tries to talk to Jim. He's like, so if you want to have like some counseling, I'll talk to you, because you think it's not suicide and whatnot. You think they were actually murdered, so we can sit down and talk if you want. Then Jim goes back to class, and he sees that he's got someone new in his class again. He's like, hey, who are you? You don't belong in here. He's like, yeah, actually, I'm a transfer from their school. And we find out it's another one of the greasers that killed his brother. And of course, the greaser pulls out the same switchblade that killed his brother, and he's trying to clean his nail with it. And he's like, so you want to hand that over to me, because you're not allowed to have that in my classroom. He's like, yeah, I'd love to give it to you. Stab you. Then we see Jim leaving class, getting ready to go to his car, and we can overhear that doctor talking to 2 officers. It's like, so my professional opinion, I think he's unstable, and I think he's probably a danger to the school, to be honest with you. Then we see Jim at home washing up, wiping down his face, and then Sally knocks on the door. He's like, yeah, I'll be out in a minute. He's like, well, actually, there's a boy here knocking at the door. He says he's one of your students, though. Just curious, though. And Jim's a little hesitant to open the door to see who it is, because he's thinking it's one of the greasers. And then it's actually the Chipster showing up. He's like, so I'm not here to give you a bad time. I'm just something I need to talk to you about. That's when Chip's like, if those guys do anything, you gotta know I'm not in it with them. I'm not doing anything with them. Those guys are crazy. He's like, what are you talking about? We find out that Chipster went out with them for some beers, and he's complaining to them about how they're going to fail Chipster because of everything. Chipster feels like the greasers are going to attack Jim for everything they're saying, and then the greasers apparently told Chipster that they've known Jim for a while, and they're going to get some revenge on him from something that happened in the past. And then Chipster's like, what, I'm not going to school tomorrow. I got a brother in Kansas. I'm just going to take off and go to school there, because I don't want to live here, because these guys are crazy and they're going to kill me. That's when then Chip starts to run away, and Jim starts yelling at him. He's like, you can't keep running away. You got to actually tell someone about this. And then Chipster starts walking back towards Jim, and that's when the greaser car shows up behind him and actually runs over Chipster, and now we have Chipster stuck on the hood of this car as they're speeding around town as Chip's holding on for his life. Jim runs back into his house and locks the door, and the next thing you know, we hear someone knocking on the door, and then it's Norman, one of the police officers. That's when Norman's like, you know, you wouldn't mind coming down to the station with me, and Jim's all confused, like, they got one of my students, they're driving around like maniacs. It's like, yeah, let's come down to the police station and talk about some stuff. Then we see the greaser stop, and Chip falls off the car, and then two of the greasers get out of the car and throw Chipster in the back of the car. He's like, come on, we're going for a road trip, pal. Then we see Richard's driving the car. He's like, hey, you haven't met North yet, have you, Chip? Came from down south. Guess what? Once you're gone, he's going to take your spot in class. Then we see Jim being questioned by the officer that picked him up. I don't know why this is a thing of like police and movies back in the time. They always got something in their mouth, and they're always like chewing like a loud motherfucker as they're like questioning the person. And it's like, why can't you just talk with not food in your mouth or gum in your mouth or whatever it is? Just shut up. Then we cut to the greasers. They're parked on the train bridge. And like, what's it gonna take to scare this boy? Hey, what's it gonna take to scare Chipster? And it's like, we gotta do the face. And that's when one of the greasers named Vinny, the guy took Kate's spot, changes into his like dead face, and North's like, hey, it's not scaring me yet, Chipster. And then they all start to change their face, which Richard has a really cool looking face as a dead charcoal zombie creature, and then they pull out the switchblade and they get ready to chop him up into pieces, and that's what they do. They chop him up to pieces and then they throw him off the bridge. And that's the next day, and Jim's finally getting dropped off by a police officer, and his son runs out and gives him a big hug. He's like, hey Dad, how was jail? He's like, I wasn't in jail, son, I was just talking to some police officers, don't worry about it wasn't that big of a deal actually. That's when Sally starts questioning Jim. He's like, so why do they think you're the one that killed the kids? He's like, I don't know, they just think I did. I haven't done anything. And then he's like, I'm just tired. I just need to get ready for work. And then Sally's like, I just want to be let in. I just want to, be able to talk to you. I want to know what's going on because I'm feeling left out right now and I don't know what the hell's going on. And then of course that same officer, he's like, so you were right. One of your students did go missing. He's like, yeah, Chip, right? He's like, yeah. Amazing, huh? How you're right. We'll let you know if we find anything out, though. We'll keep you in touch. Keep you in the loop. You let us know, too, if you figure out anything. You suspicious bastard. You new person in town, huh? Then we see Jim walking past the boys' washroom. He hears a bunch of laughing inside and goes inside, and we see the greasers are all hanging out inside the bathroom. And that's when we find out that, they're introducing the new greaser to him, and Jim looks in the mirror, and he doesn't see the reflection of the greasers at all in the mirror. And that's when Richard's like, say, don't tell us you don't remember what today's anniversary is. Today's the day that we get our payback. Today's the day you can't run away from us. Finally. Then we see Jim's kid walking home. He just splits off from his buddies because he's like, all right, see you guys later. And the next thing you know, we see the greaser's car coming over a hill and chasing his son down the road. The kid actually goes into another person's driveway, crawls underneath the car of someone else, and then the greasers actually ram into that car, flip it over, and then we see the little kid running through the backyard screaming for help. And then we see Jim showing back up at home. He's like, what happened? What happened? And then Sally's like, apparently some guys in a black car tried to hit him. And he's like, did anyone else see them? He's like, no, but the officers are out looking for it at least. That's when we see Sky in bed. And Jim's like, you don't have to sleep, I need you to rest. And Sky's like, Dad, can we leave here, please? And Jim's like, it won't happen again. Don't worry about it. Everything's under control. Everything is fine. And that's when then Jim takes the hat that Wayne, his brother, gave him and actually gives it to his son. He's like, this thing's going to protect you. It's protected me all my life. And now, it means a lot to me, so I'm going to pass it down to you because I was the same age you were when I got it. That's when then Jim goes downstairs looking for Sally, his wife. He starts freaking out because she's not answering well. So he starts running around the house looking for her. And then she comes up out of the basement. He's like, the dryer's running. Sorry, I didn't hear you at all. And that's when then Jim's like, you gotta be careful. There's some punks in my class. They're trying to kill me. We just gotta be careful. And we gotta stay together. And then Jim's like, these are the same guys that killed my brother. And Sally's like, you're going crazy, aren't you? And Sally's like, the people that killed your brother, they got killed by the train. So how is this the same people? How am I supposed to believe that they're alive? He's like, they're not. It's actually the 27th anniversary of them killing my brother, and now they're back. And they weren't in the mirror, and they were actually there. So they're ghosts of some sort. You just gotta stay inside, lock the doors, and don't leave the house, please. That's when then Jim has a flashback to the police officer that was trying to help him as a kid when he was running away from the train tunnel. So he goes to the sheriff's office to try and talk to the officer and be like, I need to find him, figure out where he is. And then we find out he's actually living in an old folks home, and Jim goes to visit him, and the guy looks up. He's like, Jimmy, it's you. It's good to see you. He's like, hey, you remember me? He's like, yeah, I've been waiting for you. That's when Jim sits down with the officer. He's like, so it's going to sound weird, but like the guys that killed my brother, they're back. And he's like, I know, I've seen them. Wayne needs you. And then we find out he got apparently the officer, during a routine burglary check or something along those lines, he got shot in the head and he was clinically dead for 3 minutes. And then that's how he saw Wayne. And it's like a connection between him and Wayne now. It's when this guy actually gives the name of the movie. He's like, sometimes they're in our hearts, sometimes they're in our thoughts. And, sometimes if something goes unsettled, sometimes they come back. That's when Jim's like, one of those guys said they transferred from Milford High. Or maybe they've all been saying Milford High. And the officer's like, yeah, that's because it's not a school. That's why you can't find anything out about it. It's actually a graveyard. Of course, Jim's, checking out this graveyard in the middle of the night with a flashlight like any normal person does. And he trips, and then we find the tombstones of Lawson, North, and whoever Vinny is. I forget the last name for him. And then out of nowhere, two of the greasers just pop up on the tombstones. It's like, hey, welcome back there, Jimmy. We find out the last greaser missing is Mueller, and the Lawson's like, you don't have much time to find Mueller, because we're going to look for Mueller too, and tonight's the night if you don't find him in time. I don't know what the hell that means, but whatever. I guess they're looking for another person to kill for Mueller. And then we see Jim stop at like a phone booth, and he pulls out the phone book and actually looks through the registry, and he finds a form with how the Mueller's on it, so he rips the paper out, and he's going to knock on this weird looking building, and he's looking for Carl Mueller. So we find out Mueller's the last survivor of the greasers. He's the one that was actually trying to squeeze out of the window as the train's coming out the car. And he actually greets Jimmy with a gun in the face. He's like, what do you want? You're actually the guy who punched my brother and, made him get stabbed. Then there's a little tussle, and Jim's like, you're coming with me. He's like, what? Come on, man. Like, you almost died too, And that's when they stop at the train tunnel, and we have Jim dragging Mueller out. He's like, oh, don't you know your old buddies are back? So every life that they lost, they're taking a new life, and now they're back. And Mueller's like, you're crazy. You're fucking crazy. I'm getting out of here. At this point in time, Jim has Mueller's gun, and Mueller's running down the train tracks. He's like, he's pointing the gun at him, but he's like, oh shit, I actually have a gun in my hand. What the fuck was I just thinking? I was going to kill the guy. Then we cut back to Sally at home with the Scotty, I think that's the son's name, asleep on the couch, and she hears a car pull up outside the house, and it's actually that same black car, and their front gate is just like swinging back and forth, and she gets freaked out, and then the car starts to drive away. And Sally goes in the kitchen, starts to put a pot of water on to make a tea, and then as it's starting to whistle, the basement door actually opens up a crack. She kind of loses focus of what she's doing and starts pouring the hot water on the stove, and then she goes over to the knife block and grabs the knife out of the block and slowly starts walking towards the door, but then she puts the knife back down like, nah, I'm crazy. And then she grabs a bigger knife. She's like, yeah, this one probably do a better job. She locks the basement door, the bolt lock on it, and then one of the greasers breaks through the back door. He's like, hello, Mrs. Norman, can Jimmy come out to play? And then he unlocks that door, comes through, and then another greaser jumps through the living room window because she goes to wake up Scotty, and then another one jumps through the window, and they're like, welcome to the neighborhood, Mrs. Norman. Then Jim comes in, and he's got the gun still in hand, and he starts shooting, which I believe is Richard, and then he has the gun pointed at the other two greasers, and they just start laughing at him. Because then Richard pops back up in his human form instead of the undead form. He's like, hey, nice shooting there, Jimbo, but guess what? You can't kill what's already dead. And that's when the greasers are leaving, and Jim's like, I'm not running away this time. He's like, good, bring them away then kids. It's fun for the whole family. We'll see you at the train tunnel. So then we see Jim loading up the family into the RV, or not the RV, the VW bus, and he takes them to a church, and next thing we know, we see a flashback because Sally's like, why are they after you? And we find out that when Jim was leaving the train tunnel as a kid, he picked up the car keys. That's why they couldn't get the car moving in the train tunnel, even though they've been driving the car the whole movie. But apparently they need the special keys so they can go back into the mortal world, undead world. I don't know what the whole thing is, but so I was like, you know what, we could just load up the car and leave and drive away and never come back. That'd be fine because this never happened before. Then we see Jim leaving the family in the church because that's not weird at all. Be like, yeah, I'll come back. Don't worry. Trust me. I got this. I'll come back. And then next thing we know, we see Jim going back to his old family home with a crowbar to break in because he's got to find those keys somewhere in that old abandoned house maybe. We see Jim breaking into the house, and then he's pushing up the floorboard because he's got this looks like an old cigar box, and then he's got a bunch of hockey cards, baseball cards inside of it, a couple coins, and then he does find the car keys on the red fuzzy, looks like a rabbit foot, but it's not. I don't even know what the hell it was called back in the day, but it was something that was very common for a lot of people to have their keys on. Then as Jim's holding the keys, Mueller, who's still alive, he walks in the house. He's like, so you're the one that took them? And Jim's like, what are you doing here? He's like, well, to be honest with you, I used to come here all the time. Used to park my car across the street and just sit there and stare at the house. I never meant anything to happen to your brother. I didn't want anything bad to happen to anyone. I was, trying to be cool. That's when Mira's like, I know it's crazy to say, but I believe you. I believe that they're back, and I always believed that they would be back one day. And, I'm a little bit scared, to be honest with you. That's when Mira's like, I'm tired of being afraid. I'm not going to be afraid anymore, so let's go get this done and dealt with. And they're leaving the house, and they get ready to get closer to the V&W bus, and that's when the whole bus goes up in flames, and then we see the greasers standing off on the side with some gas cans as they're laughing as their car goes up in flames. That's when all the greasers come over. It's like, Mueller, is that you? You used to be cool, man. You're supposed to be with us. You're not supposed to be with that guy. You used to be cool until you went yellow. That's when we then see them knock Jim down to the ground. I think they might punch him in the stomach or in the face. And they force Mueller into the car and they drive away. And Mueller's in the back car. He's like, so where are we guys going? It's like, to the train tunnel. Of course you should know that, Mueller, but I think we're going to stop off at the train or the church and go see some old friends. That's when then Sky hears some noise outside the church and he gets all excited. And he goes to open the door and thinks it's his dad. And it's not. It's actually the greasers. And then one of the greasers starts to walk in and his foot actually catches fire and starts freaking out. And then everyone else starts laughing at him. Then we see them like tormenting the guys outside the church. They're banging on the walls and trying to break the glass. And then we see a very tired Jim running through a graveyard, and then he kneels down at his brother's tombstone asking for help. That's when we then see the wind start to pick up and this bright light appears, and next thing we know, we see Wayne coming out of this bright tunnel. And then as Wayne's coming out of this bright tunnel, we see the greasers it catches their attention even though they're not in the same area, and they're like, something's off. And then the tunnel closes up and Wayne's gone again. And it's just Jim yelling for Wayne to please help him. That's when then the greasers are yelling at Sally and being like, we're going to come back around midnight. And they take Mueller and shove him back into the car and drive away. And then we hear Jim's voice yelling outside. And Scott runs right outside. And of course, it's actually the greasers just putting on the dad's voice. And next thing you know, the greasers have a switchblade up against Scotty's face, and Mueller's like, come on, don't hurt the kid. And then of course Sally punches Richard and he kind of laughs off. He's like, don't you know, Sally, nobody punches me and ever lives. Don't you know this by now? And then we see Jimmy talking to himself as he's staring at the train tunnel as he slowly starts to walk towards the train tunnel. And then the greasers appear behind him again and cut him off and park in the exact same spot again. And the greasers pop out saying the same thing that they said the last time. But now this time they have Scotty in the back car and he's yelling for his dad for help. And he's like, so we had to get some insurance to make sure you weren't going to chicken out, that's all. And that's when Richard's like, so you know the routine, Jimmy. So how much money you got? And he just tells him, I just got the 12 cents from the box. And the one guy's like, you're a liar. Then we hear a train whistle off in the distance. One of them's like, what's going on? And then we see Mueller stop in front of Jim. He's like, you guys got to leave him alone. And Mueller goes to try and attack Richard. And Richard actually stabs him. And then Vinny's like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to kill him. He's on our side. And he's like, he deserved it. He's trying to attack me. That's when Mueller's like, so every life they take, a life comes back, right? As he's dying in Jimmy's arms now. Then we hear a weird sound coming around, a bright light coming up, and Richard's like, boys, we're gonna have some company here in a minute. And then we see the bright white tunnel open up again, and now Wayne pops out, and Jimmy's like, oh my god, it's my brother. And then a fight breaks out between them all, and then we see the car keys drop to the ground again. Vinny then drops Jim to the ground, and then we see Wayne fighting off Richard again, and getting held back by North. And then Richard pulls out the switchblade again. He's like, man, nobody hits me. And then we hear a train coming again. And Vinny's like, there's not supposed to be a train running through here anymore. What's going on? And that's when Jimmy's like, hey, you guys need this? The car keys? And he chucks them down the train tunnel. Then we see this train starting to come down the tunnel, and it's got a red fog and smoke coming behind it. And then we see Richard being like, oh, no way, man, it's not another train. I don't know if it's Vinny or North, but one of them grabs the car keys, and they all jump back in the car. He's like, come on, we gotta go before the train comes. It's like, the train's right there, dude. They get into the car, but they get it running, and they try to back out or to try and move the car at all. But of course, the car is now stuck somehow on the train tracks, and then the train crashes through them yet again. And there's like this cool effect before the train does run into them. Their faces start to melt like they're in the zombie form again, and we see the train crash right through them. There's sparks all over the place, and then the train goes through the end of the tunnel and up into the sky and disappears. And then Wayne's like, hey, that's my cap there you got there. And Jimmy's like, yeah, I gave it to my son. I'm your brother. He's named after our dad. And then Wayne, who's still stuck in the past, he's like, no, that can't be. Jimmy's my little brother. And Jim, crouches down to him. He's like, I grew up. I'm your brother. It's been 27 years since you passed away. And then we see the big white portal open up again. And Wayne's like, I don't want to go back. I was all alone there. I don't want to go back. Can I please stay? And Jim's like, I would love to. I would love for you to stay and make up for all the lost years, but you can't stay. So then Wayne puts out his hands like, well, you can come with me then. You will come with me to the other side because I was all alone. That's when Sally's like, Wayne, Jimmy loves you so much, but we need him here. Our son Scotty needs him so much. And Jim and Wayne have a little heartfelt, brother conversation, hug, and Jim telling Wayne that you're always in my heart and in my thoughts. Go to the other side. Your mom and dad's waiting there for you, and we'll be together again sometime soon, but hopefully not too soon. Then Wayne goes back into the portal and closes it up, and then we see Jimmy looking at his hand. He's still got the 12 cents, and then he gives them to his son Scotty after Scotty's getting done hugging him. Be like, you need to hold on to these. These are always going to be your good luck coins. My big brother gave them to me, and I've held on to them all this time, even though I just got them out of the cigar box that I had stashed in the old family home, but hold on to them and never let go of them. And then we see them walking out of the train tunnel, and then the music starts hitting and the outro credits start to play, and that's the end of this TV movie. It's a good concept, and I enjoy Stephen King's movies. I haven't read much of his short stories or his books in general because there's just so many of them and they're just so goddamn big, to be honest with you, but I enjoyed this one. On the rotten scale of 10, I like the special effects. I actually do. The way the greasers look when they're in their dead form. I'm probably going to draw one or two of them. But I do like the way they look. I wish they were in the movie a little bit more. I love the car they used too. It's fucking awesome. I gotta stop swearing as much. But anyways, it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. And you can watch it for free on YouTube. I don't know if the other ones are on YouTube, but you can watch the first one for free on YouTube. So on my rotten scale, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I think it's good. And I think you definitely should at least watch it once. And Halloween's coming up soon. So, just start watching your horror movies now. Because why not? I watch them all year round. So, it's always Halloween for me. But anyways, it brings us to the time where we gotta pick our movie we're gonna watch for next week. Alright, after doing some consideration, I felt like I want to do something that's another part 2, which I don't even think I've recorded part 1 for. But I'm a fan of the first one, and I haven't watched the second one in a while. So we're gonna watch Fright Night Part 2. From 1988, so I'm definitely looking forward to watching this, and hopefully you guys will tune in for that one as well. You can find it for free on YouTube, just saying, just so you know. So if you want to watch it on YouTube, just go search it up, and you can check it out there. But as always, if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to also check out the outro band, Toronto-based horror band Blood Opera. All their links will be down below. You can find them all on all forms of social media sites: Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, pretty much anything and everything. And even check out their Etsy shop to see what cool merch they got, custom made stuff.
Anyways, also make sure to check me out on all social medias at TFSN. All the links will be down below, but the main thing that we're pushing is the YouTube channel, where we got the weekly gaming video going out, as well as other random videos coming out throughout the weeks, the various art shorts. We got some old episodes of podcasts going up that you guys seem to be enjoying, and just other random content. So definitely go check that out, or check out the Instagram page, Facebook page, Twitter, X page, Threads, all that other fun stuff. And I will talk to you guys all later. Peace!
Whisper in the classroom, the writing on the wall. What's blood for, if not for the shedding?
You used to play that childhood game, didn't you? The one where we chant his name. Was it true? Staring in the mirror, I can say, come to me. I can hear him calling back to me. Be my victim, Candyman, when I say his name again. And then me will appear, my whole world Candyman. Was it for